Hey guys, you're listening to the Prosta English podcast, the podcast created for English learners. Here we do not focus on grammar or memorizing idioms and phrasal verbs. Instead, we just talk about life, covering topics like traveling, procrastination, healthy habits, hobbies, and much more. By simply listening, you will naturally expand your vocabulary and pick up useful words and phrases that you might later use in your own speech. So, if you are new here or haven't subscribed yet, make sure to follow the podcast so you do not miss any future episodes. And in your free time, you can also go back and check out some of the previous episodes. At the moment, there are more than 50 of them covering different topics. But now, let's get started. Now it's the beginning of September, and I believe this month will always be associated with studies, going to school or starting university. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of my school years. I remember some family members saying, "You will definitely miss school someday." Well, it's been 12 years since I finished school, and I can say I haven't missed it a single day. I studied at a gymnasium and we had a very difficult program. And on top of that, all my classmates were exceptionally smart and well rounded, while I was just an average student. I had to work hard and study day and night just to keep up with them. Some of my classmates could read a paragraph 5 minutes before class or memorize a poem in half an hour. For me, it was the opposite. I had to prepare in advance and spend hours on my homework. In the 10th and 11th grade, I cried a lot because I couldn't handle all the pressure from teachers. That's why I was unbelievably happy to finish school and never go back. But my university experience was completely different. I studied in Lithuania, and at first, of course, it was tough because all the subjects were in English. And I had to spend a lot of time preparing for lectures, translating new words, and rereading textbooks several times before I understood them. But after about half a year, I got used to reading and listening in English. I became much more fluent and studying became easier. And for sure, I can say that my university years were the happiest ones, and it was the most adventurous time of my life. So, in this episode of the podcast, I would like to share my experience of studying in Europe and explain why it was so exceptional and so different from the education system in our countries. All right, let's dive in. The first thing I liked the most was studying with people from different countries, literally from all over the world: Italy, Nigeria, Mexico, Brazil, Germany, South Korea, Finland, Spain, Kazakhstan, Canada, and many more. I had the chance not only to learn about their countries, cultures, and traditions, but also to experience working with them in one team. At my university, we had a lot of projects that we had to prepare in a group of 4 to 6 people. Often, my team members were from completely different cultural backgrounds. And at first, it was shocking to see how much methods of working and approach to organizing tasks could vary. For example, I learned that Germans are very focused on rules. They always follow instructions carefully and they never cheat. Chinese people are incredibly productive. They can work for hours without complaining, and they always make sure nobody is left hungry. I will not name a specific nationality not to offend anyone, but from my experience, people from some countries could be rather lazy or tricky. They might quietly wait for others to do the work, pretend they do not understand the assignment, or even do something obviously wrong so you can quickly learn it's better not to rely on them if you want a good result. At the same time, students from Italy and Spain were very relaxed. They loved to have fun, make jokes, and if you worked too much, they would invite you out for a beer to unwind. At first, all of this felt stressful because I had to adjust to different working styles while being careful not to offend anyone's culture. But later, I realized that this mix of perspectives actually made our projects much more creative and original. And on top of that, I also gained friends from all over the world. For example, one of my Italian friends once invited me to visit him in Sicily. I traveled there with my mom. We stayed at a hotel, but for a whole week, he showed us around. He drove us everywhere by car, and thanks to him, we discovered the best local restaurants, markets, parties, and even some hidden non touristic places. It was one of the best trips I've ever had. Another time, I visited one of my group mates in Malaysia. When I was living in China, we decided to travel there for a few days. I texted her, and then she and her husband met us at the airport. They became our amazing guides during those days, showing us the local lifestyle, economy, and traditions. Honestly, we would have never experienced the country so deeply if we had traveled on our own. The second thing I loved about my studies, and one of the main reasons I decided to study in Europe, was the opportunity to go to an exchange program. You get the chance to study for half a year in another European country. All you need is good grades, recommendation letters from two professors, and to send your application to the partner universities you're interested in. As an exchange student, I had the chance to study and live for half a year in Belgium and another half a year in Denmark. It was truly an unforgettable experience. You learn what life is like in those countries and get a much better understanding of the local mentality. It's also a fascinating academic experience. Honestly, the programs in Denmark and Belgium were much more challenging compared to the program in Lithuania. So, besides gaining cultural knowledge, I also improved my academic skills. In addition to that, during the fourth year of my bachelor's studies, we didn't have regular lectures. The last semester was dedicated to writing our bachelor thesis and completing an internship. The internship was mandatory, but we could choose any company that we wanted. I knew that I didn't want to stay in Lithuania for that semester, so I started thinking about where to apply. One day, our professor invited a representative from an international company to our lecture. She talked about the company she worked for, and it all sounded very interesting. After the class, I approached her and asked if they were looking for interns. She told me to send my CV and a motivational letter. I got accepted and spent 6 months working for the company in Warsaw. The internship wasn't paid, back then it was common practice, but I applied for a scholarship through a student exchange organization and I received 500 euros a month. That was enough to rent a room, buy food, and even travel a little. At that time, I didn't care much about comfort. I was so enthusiastic and ambitious that I could eat plain rice and buy clothes from secondhand stores just to gain this experience and explore the world. By the way, during that time, I fell in love with Poland. I always thought I would live there again, ideally in Warsaw, but life had other plans and I ended up in Gdańsk. What I want to say is that I had the chance to live in different European countries and compare them. And for me, Poland has always been and still is my number one country in Europe for many reasons. But that's another story. I actually talked more about it in the episode number 34 called The Best Country for Living. So you can listen to that later if you haven't done it yet. The third thing I loved about my studies was the professors. I heard from many friends who studied in Belarus that teachers there would shout at students, criticize them harshly, and sometimes even offend them. I have never faced that. All my professors in Lithuania, Belgium, and Denmark were incredibly nice, friendly, and understanding. They never looked down on us and never thought that they were better than us. They always treated us as equals. And on top of that, they were always willing to help. They helped us improve our CVs to find jobs or internships, provided useful information for projects, and made sure we understood the materials. As I mentioned before, they also invited interesting guest speakers to our lectures, and the classes themselves were usually engaging and practical. We almost never had classes where their professors were speaking for an hour and a half while we were simply listening and taking notes. Absolutely not. Usually, they asked us questions to make us think, and they gave us case studies where we had to find the answers ourselves. This made attending classes interesting and helped us remember the material much better. I think one of the major differences between professors in Belarus and in Europe is that European professors are often not full time lecturers. Many of them have other full time jobs like top managers, marketers, financial analysts, accountants, and so on. And they teach only a few times a week. And it's not about the money. They told us many times that universities pay too little anyway. They taught because they truly enjoyed it and wanted to share their knowledge and experience. And you could feel that. You could feel that they loved their jobs, loved their students, and that's why created a positive and encouraging learning environment. When I started creating my English courses for different levels, I decided to integrate all the best features from my studies in European universities, like engaging classes, interesting discussion topics, a supportive community, and teachers who never tell you off for mistakes, but instead kindly guide you through the process of learning English. One of the most common pieces of feedback we get from students after completing a course is the following: "Thank you so much. You helped me fall in love with English. You showed me that learning the language can be fun and even become part of my daily routine." And that's our goal. Unfortunately, many students finish school with negative associations with English. Endless grammar drills, tests, no speaking practice, boring classes, and texts about London and the Queen. But our approach is completely different. Instead of boring classes where the teacher explains grammar and then you do endless tests, we give you access to an interactive platform. Here's how it works. You watch a short video where I explain a grammar rule, then read some notes with examples, and then complete fun exercises and play games in order to practice. Next, you join a class in a small group with a teacher to practice that rule in spoken English. You answer questions using the rule, take part in debates and games, and learn exactly how to use it in your speech. And this is what we call a grammar class, which is one per week. Additionally, the second weekly class is a speaking club. Again, you prepare in advance by watching a video on YouTube, listening to a podcast, reading an article, and learning new vocabulary. Then in class, you discuss the topic with your classmates and a teacher. Since groups are small, everyone has enough time to express themselves, and the teachers can give personalized feedback, suggest the right words, and correct grammar. Don't worry, we avoid boring topics like London is the capital of Great Britain. Instead, we choose engaging modern topics like true friendship, remote work, jobs of the future, self confidence, healthy living, relationships, leadership, and more. And also, once a month, you will join me for an English breakfast. English breakfasts are traditional speaking classes where we discuss thought provoking movies and books. Thanks to this, many students read their first short books in English or watch a movie in their original language. I believe that you understand that classes alone aren't enough to start speaking a language. You need to surround yourself with English. And that's why we created challenges. Challenges are small daily activities in a Telegram channel that take no more than just 5 minutes a day. Challenges can include different tasks like recording an audio or video, write 5 sentences using new grammar or vocabulary, or creating questions for your teammates. These challenges help students think in English, memorize new words faster, and gain confidence. If now you think, oh my God, Nika, it requires so much time, please don't worry. You need only 2 hours a week for classes, 5 minutes a day for challenges, and 15 minutes a day to complete homework on the platform. From our experience, even the busiest people and moms of 3 children can find 15 minutes a day. Plus, our schedule is flexible. Every Sunday, we send the schedule for the next week. You can book classes at times that are convenient for you, morning, afternoon, or evening, and you will always find a slot that fits your routine. And thanks to our creative and engaging approach, we've already helped more than 980 students become confident in English and use the language as a tool to achieve their goals, whether it's relocating abroad, finding a better job, getting promoted, traveling the world, or simply feeling comfortable communicating with foreigners. And we would be more than happy to help you achieve your goals too. Our full courses for all levels, from beginners to advanced, start on the 15th of September. Can you imagine? By the end of the year, you can reach the next level in English. Follow the link in the description of this podcast to learn more and reserve the spot. If you have any questions, send me a message and I will be happy to help. Open the website, choose the course that fits your current English level, and become part of our enthusiastic English learning community. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the courses. But that's it for today, guys. See you next time and have a wonderful day.